Hello, everyone, and welcome to Elder Law Today. I'm the producer of the show, Robert Allen, and I'd like to introduce the host of Elder Law Today, Yael Hauptman.
Thanks very much, Robert. Welcome, everybody, to show number 15. What we're going to talk about today is what I call Medicaid record keeping. And let me give our audience the following scenario. Mom has spent down assets to below $2,000. A Medicaid application is filed. Everybody's thinking, okay, pretty simple. We'll get Medicaid. However, the family gets a shock when Medicaid says, sorry, you're not eligible. You're still not eligible. And you're not eligible for another 8 months. Now, how can that be? How did this happen? And the answer is that what happened is there were transfers that were subject to a Medicaid transfer penalty. And let me very quickly, for our audience, just run through that. When you spend down to below $2,000 and you apply for Medicaid, Medicaid just doesn't take your word that the money's gone, you've spent it. They want to see how you spent it. And what they do is they go through your records and all your statements for the last, it's going to be 5 years now, which is what the Medicaid look back is. And they go through those records and they want to see where the money went, and they will question you about it. And, I facetiously say, Medicaid works differently than the criminal system. In the criminal system, you're innocent until proven guilty. Medicaid works differently. You have to prove to them that the money was spent legitimately for product or service received. And that, by the way, is product or service received by mom, not for another family member. And if you can't, and you can't do that by just saying, by telling them,
right.
You got to show them by documentation where the money went. So for a lot of folks, they're thinking, well, we didn't gift anything. We're okay. But they don't have the record keeping to prove it. And that's where Medicaid adds all those transfers up as if it was one lump sum. And if you think about it over 5 years, that could be a sizable sum.
Right.
And they add it up. They divide it by what is the Medicaid considers the average cost of nursing home care in the state. And that's set by each state differently. Some states, they actually have different numbers for different areas of the state, recognizing that the cost of living is different. For most states, though, it's going to be one number statewide. And here in New Jersey, that's about $7,000. So if I was to transfer $100,000, and Medicaid says that is an uncompensated transfer, and divide that by 7,000, you get 14 months. That means I'm not eligible for Medicaid for 14 months,
Wow.
Even though I have no more money left. And I got to tell you, Robert, that in today's economy, here's what's going on. People are losing their jobs. Now, there are more unemployed people. That means less people are paying taxes. Where's the money for the Medicaid program coming from? It's from taxes and tax revenue.
Right.
That revenue is down. At the same time, our population is aging. So there are more people that are applying for these benefits. Medicaid is the biggest program out there for the government. So what is the government doing? They are delaying and denying applications. If I apply and they can tell me, come back in 8 months or 10 months or 12 months.
Sure, they just bought that time.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I may pass away before I ever come back. That's money they don't have to pay out. So it's very easy to see that Medicaid is looking to delay and deny. And if you're going to need Medicaid, you want to make sure that you get to the front of the line, not get pushed to the back of the line.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about some of the scenarios where people are getting tripped up.
Okay.
One of the big ones is home aides. Okay. So our scenario, mom needs nursing home care. But over the last 3 years, the family has hired an aide to come in and care for mom. But now her condition is such that, she really needs round-the-clock care and there's no more money left. And so she's got to go into a nursing home. But as typically happens, the family hires the aide directly. They don't go through an agency. And, we all understand why. You're avoiding the middleman of the agency, so that you would have to, if you hired an agency, you'd pay them more than if you paid the aide directly. The aide gets more if I pay her directly than if the agency pays them. And typically, it's a cash transaction, even though it's not supposed to be, because it is a taxable, it's income. But everybody does it similar to paying a babysitter, a caregiver, for a young child, same kind of scenario. And here's what happens: is there's no record of it. So if I pay an aide, let's say $700 a week, it's about $3,000 a month, and I do it for 3 years, that's going to be about $100,000
that you can't prove.
Now I apply for Medicaid, and I go to Medicaid and I say, well, I took the $700 that cash out was to pay an aide. I got no record of it, and the aides, a lot of times they're not even here legally, so they're not going to want to sign anything, and to the extent you can even find them after they're no longer working for you.
Sure.
It's a real problem.
Right.
And Medicaid is likely going to say, sorry, this looks like a gift, and you can't prove it. Come back to us in 14 months. So what folks have to understand is you can't wait till Medicaid tells you that. You got to correct it while you're still in that scenario, and you have to correct it quickly. Now, it doesn't mean that if you have been doing it paying cash and now you fix it and then 6 months or a year later you apply for Medicaid, all is lost. Because if you're paying $700 cash and now you're writing a check to the aide for $700, we can then go to Medicaid and say, look, here was the $700 cash. We explained to the family that, it needs to be documented. Now here's the $700 check. It matches up. And so we're able to then show them by documentation that was
right. So
the
logically they can say, okay,
right.
Here it is. It's not that you're just, spending it frivolously.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But those are a couple of the things, Robert, that people ought to be on the lookout for. There are a couple of others, but we'll talk about that in later segments. But that's basically kind of an overview.
Yeah, well, it's it's amazing. After so many episodes of doing this together, it's just every time I hear these things and learn, my mind is just racing about what I need to talk to my parents about. Next time I see them. But if anyone, any of our listeners out there, has a specific question, a specific scenario similar to what we've talked about that you'd like to ask, yell about, we'd love to hear from you. You can send an email. Our email address is feedback@elderlawtodaypodcast.com. That's feedback@elderlawtodaypodcast.com. And if you happen to be listening to this episode on a CD, make sure you visit our website, which is www.elderlawtodaypodcast.com, because we've got all of our great content available online as a podcast. So you can subscribe right there and get all of the content as we release it.
And Robert, also, I do have a blog on the website as well with various entries on a lot of different topics. So make sure you check that out. And that wraps up show number 15. And I look forward to our next show. Thanks very much.